done a nice job on the budget, so very good work.
Very courteous.
And then I'll kick it back over to Lisa.
Oh, it's been an interesting week and a half. Just a couple things that I wanted to mention. First is that we received word on Friday afternoon that we would be doing a presentation to DDRPC for the Coastal Zone Resources Grant application, and all the applicants were invited to give a 10-minute presentation, 5 minutes of questions. I was the last yesterday afternoon. It actually was received extremely well. Karen Holm, who runs the Coastal Zone Task Force along with Bill Payne, who was also there, gave us a big boost, so that was a positive thing. And they did have a few questions. The application solely was for an ADA trail and then the boat ramp and the fishing pier. Quite frankly, you're going to need some way to get the boats down to the ramp. So I added to the presentation, we'll probably be doing a vehicular access as well as the ADA trail. You can't have
Makes sense.
people
Can't
walking
walk a boat, sure.
on a vehicular path. So that was received really well. So we'll be hearing something probably in the next, I would say it's probably about 3 months down the road, we'll be hearing whether or not we received that grant. There is, and I spoke to Mr. Presenti on Monday, he and I share a meeting Monday night. Wanted to verify it's a 50% match. This is solely for the design work, and it's estimated at $52,000 for the design work. That includes doing geotechnical reports because the soils are bad, so and we're going to be putting a concrete pier in for the fishing pier. So
I meant to look back at my notes. Were you made aware that that was a match grant? Does anybody remember that? It was made,
so the borough is going to be responsible for $25,000, and want to make sure there's a grant application, I believe, with Pico Green Region, although we haven't seen it. I haven't found it, so I'm going to call over to Natural Lands Trust, and I'm sure they'll provide a copy of it for me. So that would be a pending. So there's about, I guess, about $14,000, $15,000 that the borough is going to have to take care of. I just throw that out there because I want everybody to be aware that there
There's
is
some money.
costs that are involved in this. What the deliverable is going to be is the design plans and specifications, so that you can go back out to like the DCNRs. We, back in 2008, we put an application in for a master plan for Montgomery Park. Let's look at putting a pedestrian path around, a trail around the entire park, upgrade the ball fields, upgrade the clubhouse. And I'll provide, if you want a copy of that, I still have that. It wasn't a master plan, it was just like 10 different sheets of paper that showed you what could be done, how it looks now, what could be done later. So once you have something like that designed, you can then go out and solicit for grant money. It's a lot easier because you already have the design completed. We have what would be considered a master plan. So when I went yesterday, I brought that master plan study with me so that they knew that we had done a little bit more than just throw, hey, we'd like to have a boat ramp and a fishing pier out along the creek. So it did go very well. I believe, I don't know whether you've done a road program. I do have to get, if the completion reports aren't finished, they have to be in by the end of the year, so I'll have to be working on that shortly. Just to be a little transition, I appreciate it. Tony's been a big help in Linda's absence, so I did want to thank her publicly.
Well, it's a good time to jump in for you. I want everyone to know that it's been about 3 weeks. And here Lisa has put 2 proposals together, which, I mean, that's great work on very short notice, and we appreciate what you've done for the block grant and for this. I mean, that's good work.
My job. Thank you.
Lisa, I have a question for you. The boat ramp, bringing nobody
would rather have a boat ramp down there with me, but has anybody looked at the water itself for a boat ramp? You cannot get a canoe out of there unless it's dead high tide. There, have they talked about dredging that?
You know,
Because a boat ramp was,
it wasn't.
worthless.
It wasn't part of any proposal whatsoever. I will tell you that as part of the Darby Creek Greenway study that was done, Delaware County Planning did two different Darby Creek. They did a watershed study that they talked about public access, getting people to the river, or getting people to the Delaware estuary, for lack of a better term, probably the best term actually. And in the watershed study, it talks about how you get people there through trails, through. The Greenway study actually shows you that there's not only a pedestrian trail through there, so it'll be bikes and
Right.
pedestrians, there's also a water trail that is in this study. So at some point in time, I know DCNR, Carolyn Wallace from DCNR had been to a coastal zone task force meeting, I sit on that task force, and had talked about getting canoes and kayaks. They're talking from Chester City all the way through, up as far into Philadelphia, with this water trail. So my guess would be, at some point in time, they'll have to look at, can we even get canoes or small boats? Somebody's using it because you can see the
At dead high tide,
yeah.
that's the only time. And then you can't come back in for 7
Well,
hours.
I can tell you, I designed the boat ramp down Chester City, down under the Commodore Barry Bridge. And you've got, when you're doing that criteria, you're going down a low water level. So it may be that we can get it in. I don't know what the muck looks like there.
That's what I'm
So-
talking about.
Mm.
And the cars that are in there too. You come in there at low tide, you hit the cars.
So some of those tire tracks aren't necessarily,
Oh, yeah, yeah, there's cars in there.
they never laughed once they.
Like 3 cars in there.
Down the track.
That's what I'm saying, if we're putting out this money, I understand the trail. And I would love to see a boat ramp, but it'd be like dumping a boat ramp there and never being able to use it.
Yeah, well, we'd have to look at that. At this point, it's merely a design. If that's not possible or has to be done as part of the construction phase, you're gonna have a design phase and you're gonna have a construction phase. And in all likelihood, you're not gonna be able to do that construction phase as one project. It will probably be 2 projects. Just because you're not gonna be able to get the money to dredge. First of all, when you dredge, you gotta find some place to put
To
it.
dump it,
And
yeah.
those, and the Army Corps, approved dump sites are very few, far between. That's why the dredging in the Delaware River hadn't happened for such a long period of time. So, you know, there are a lot of things that we've gotta look at from the standpoint, your point's well taken and.
Yeah, I have a bass boat and I don't draw much water.
Yeah,
And if you go in anywhere besides high tide back there, from like the ball fields in Montgomery, I'll kick my motor up and use my electric trolling motor, and that gets hung up. You
Yeah.
know, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
If we're gonna put a lot of money out for a boat ramp,
we probably ought
Can't
to
use.
look at where it's gonna be sited as well, because right now it's just showing this is where it is. We may need
yeah, they're
to.
gonna put it down at the
Push
end
it.
where, at the end of the empty ball field, right?
Right,
Yeah, ain't gonna
Yeah.
work.
okay.
Take a look at that. Does anybody have any other new business or anything? I just want to announce and ask that council, Joe, and chief stay after the meeting for an executive session. Other than that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Hold on, Jay, Mr. Stark.
No, Judge was talking about brakes. I put the lights in the barrel.
The lights?
Yeah.
Well, listen, we had a couple different companies come in, and one actually put in LED light, in the one spot. And, I mean, right now for 2015, and I mean, I talked to Joe about this, there's no plans for it in 2015 to do the LED lights. If that's what you're asking me. Now, if you're asking me, you have a light out near your house or something, you
Look,
certainly,
is there a way we can get a break for that?
a grant for the LED lights, I mean, that's something we can certainly discuss.
Streetlights?
Yeah,
Right
convert
now-
to the LED.
Right now, converting to LED lights for any municipality, until PICA or the PUC changes the rating structure, it doesn't help you. It will in the future, but, I can tell you, we talked about that with PICO. They had
I'm
a
making a
municipal
move like
meeting.
that, Lisa, because that's what I questioned, the people who came in here and said that they don't change it, and they looked at me like I was crazy. The rating system has to change.
The tariff has to change,
Yeah.
because you're not paying on a consumption basis, you're paying on a per light basis.
Because they don't measure how many kilowatts or
Correct.
whatever are
Now-
going into each light.
I know, and I'm assuming they got done, but we had done the grant, the energy grant for the exterior lights and the lights in the gymnasium. I don't know whether you've seen a reduction in your energy costs because of that. Not, yeah,
Not significant.
so
So
to
that's
put,
the-
to put the
that's the
kind of
thing.
money out, to put the ballasts in and change the light fixtures out is extremely expensive when you're not seeing a return.
I
Take
did two
100 years to pay for
presentations,
it.
and remember, by
Just
salesmen
look at Donald.
that come in here and say that it reduces the cost. And upon doing my own research on it, and that's what I found out, is that it really doesn't significantly change your energy cost. It significantly changes the amount of energy you're using, but not the cost. And unfortunately for now, until they change that, I can't see us.
Now, I will tell you that if your traffic signal lights, if your bulbs and your ballast and your traffic signals have not been changed to LED, there's been significant, like 20 to 30% decrease in the cost for your traffic signals, because your traffic signals are by consumption. So the LED lights have, in particular, if you change the red and the green, because they're the ones that are on most of the time, you're gonna see a significant difference in that bill.
Great. Okay,
Who does traffic lights for us?
signals.
Signals. Signals?
Signal service.
Can they disconnect at Ashland and Delmar? You have the
Listen,
overhead lights.
I've done this thing. Here's
That's
here's what
one
the thing
that's
is.
facing the
I
green light.
understand, you're going in towards the village, and you notice that the light is red and the other one is green. So I went into this with signals, I'm sure everybody's seen it there, it's odd that the one light's green. They've told me that when you're stopped at that light, that you're not supposed to see that green, it's supposed to be for the pedestrians that are in front, well, I mean, we can all attest that you can see it.
Absolutely.
It's so that anyone that is past that area can turn right or whatever. I mean, I went into it with them, and it's a whole rundown.
It's an offset, it's an offset, it's an offset
of
intersection.
the other light, and that's why it remains green. You're supposed to stop, obviously, at the red light before you approach Ashland. So that's, yeah. So, and then what happens is, somebody runs the light, right, and they tell you there was a green light there, what do you
I
get?
gotta be honest with you, that rarely happens. You do see it,
Yeah,
but I think we see it because we live here, we're from here.
yeah,
It annoys the hell out of us. We get I don't think we've ever had an accident because of it.
right.
And I don't remember a complaint about it.
Yeah, but I do know exactly what you're talking about, and I've gone over it with them, and they said they've done a study on it, and they came out and they said that's what it is. So I did look into it.
We go
They didn't
by
fix
every
it,
day.
Bob, but I looked into it.
Unscrew the bulb.
Jason, tell them we got Pico poles, we gotta care about around
That's
us.
it. Yeah, we got some people. You're right.
I know.
If there's nothing else, I'll take it, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, council, Joe, chief, just stick around for the executive session.